how shit go, you know how we do. Just know that yeah. Can hit my line, I pull up. Any damn time I pull up. You ain't even mine, I pull up.
All right, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast, the podcast where we have real, honest conversations with authentic people. For you guys who don't know me, my name is Lanston, aka LT.
My name is Marcus, and today we have a very special guest. He's one of my mentors, and he's a very great financial advisor, one of the best in the U.S., Mr. Sam Syrie.
Thanks, Marcus. I certainly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. How you doing today, my man?
Man, last time I had an introduction like that, I did it myself.
Oh, right, well, there you go.
I did it myself. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for those kind words.
Yes, sir. Well, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in the South, Louisiana. Grew up, had great parents. My father died when I was very young, and my mother raised us. Had great leadership around me, male leadership, which was excellent. 17 years old, I left, went in the military, take care of my mother. Spent 20 years in the Air Force, retired, and I went into business for myself because I believe that in order to become financially independent, you got to go into business for yourself. So that's why I am where I am right now. I've been doing what I do right now full time since 1989, my wife and I. And we have offices in New York, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, here in Denver. You know, we just have a great time.
As you can see, he's everywhere, guys.
Yeah. So we got the OG in here, OG of all OGs right now.
Is that the rumor?
Yeah, well, you already heard it. All the different things that he's doing. So we're very proud to have him on today.
Why is financial literacy or just financial wealth advisory looked down upon in our community? Like, why is there a gap in between that?
Well, I mean, you know, a lot of time we talk politics, and what I've learned by studying it is that we made a mistake. You know, you look at other races like the Jewish race, the Italians. You look at the Asians; they come here and they don't go into politics. You know, we jump right into politics when we're able to do so. We put in councilmen, mayors, you know, governors, and nothing wrong with that. But the focus, I think, was misplaced. It's basically economics. It's economic wealth. And once you've achieved economic wealth, you have all those politicians now going to those sections, to those people asking for help, and the influence is there. So I believe, like I've been taught, economic power will provide you much more and will take you much further than political power that I think we got sucked into. And I think it became frowned upon. We believe that, hey, go to school, get a great education, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Get a good job, nothing wrong with that. Live happily ever after. That does not work in the real world. Nothing's wrong with that. You have to work, and I think people need to do that. But what's important is try to find something that you can do, something that people need, feel that need, and then you'd be surprised, you know, where it can take you. People need entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, you know, Barack Obama was our president. I think a lot of people just thought he was going to save all the black folks. I think to your point, you know, there's only so much you can do with that economic freedom, there's so much more that you can do. I wonder what's the gap though? Why don't we know that? Why is there a disconnect in our community where we don't understand the power of building real wealth?
You know, man, I was reading a book by Jason Rotley, you know, a tremendous book, and he talked about that very same thing. We were entrepreneurs. We were entrepreneurs, man, coming out of the 1800s, 1900s. We owned more businesses, and a lot of time it was out of necessity. We had to. Gotcha. If I was traveling somewhere, I couldn't just stop and go to any hotel. Okay? Right. I had to find something in my neighborhood, something in the black neighborhood, and that's where I had to stay. But so out of necessity, entrepreneurs were established, and we created more wealth than you can believe. It was amazing, man. The resilience of say the black culture coming out of slavery and what they were able to do in such a short period of time. Something happened though that flipped the switch. I mean, the script was totally. And as a result, man, we began to believe that instead of taking care of ourselves through entrepreneurship, being independent and things like that, we became more, the government is going to help me do this and that, and it will never work.
Wow. Man, that's so on topic and on point with Juneteenth being around the corner. But you just made me think of Black Wall Street and just how we've been able to do there and how it got burned down and all those different things. Like how it's so crazy at that time how they had a Black Wall Street at that time, and I don't think we even recovered to ever have a Black Wall Street since then.
No, not at all, man. And it's really sad to see how now you hear stories now about it. But I'm growing up, I didn't know anything about it. They didn't. That's not something that they're gonna promote to us. Because that's something they took from us. So they're not trying to give us more power in saying like this is where you really come from. Right. You come from other entrepreneurs. You come from people owning businesses and having control of the whole ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? So it's really crazy to see now that we're talking about it. You see some people trying to make a change though, but like you say, like the effects of it is still hitting us. Like we still don't really understand how far we've come. So talking about black wealth, and within our community, we deal with a lot of, we want stuff like right now. How do we deal with delayed gratification? Like how can we show people like what you're giving them as far as the wealth and the knowledge and everything, how does that affect them right now? And then how could it prolong throughout the future? Like how do we get to that point?
In my opinion, delayed gratification is a big mistake. I mean, we all want it right now. And I tell people this all the time, man, you accomplish things, you work your butt off, and you through the years, and you accomplish things, and you accumulate things. And then, of course, your kids want it right now. And what that does, it creates a situation where debt becomes a cancer in relationships, and you can see it. I believe that you have to pay a price. It's like investing money. We have a rule in money called the Rule of 72, and that rule simply says, take the interest divided into 72, and it will tell you how long it takes your money to double. I believe that time, consistency with a little bit of money creates tremendous wealth. I mean, even if it's $50 a month, anybody can invest $50 a month.
Right.
Yes.
You invest $50 a month and you put that money away, you let it work in the right vehicle, and just keep pushing it, stay out of debt.
So if I say I want the $50 to buy the new J's, you would say
invest. I would say invest, but there's something called your financial house, and you gotta build it in the right kind of way. And I always say when it comes to a financial house, especially when I'm dealing with families, first of all, man, you have to have the right amount of insurance on your life. I mean, it's the only thing that will create an immediate estate if somebody dies tomorrow. Right? I mean, you just don't have the money to do it.
Right.
But as time goes on, I'm investing a little bit on the side. Mutual funds, my investments are growing and growing. When my kids get grown, man, I don't need all that insurance. I can reduce it, but my investment continue to increase. Because at retirement age, I don't need big life insurance policies. I need money.
right.
And that's where the investment come in, and the delayed gratification, which makes a tremendous difference in a life. I mean, it's good to be able to live life by design.
So with it being Juneteenth and you being also Father's Day around the corner, so as a black father, what do you want your legacy to be?
Man, we all human, man. I have many deficiencies.
Nobody's perfect, right?
Nobody's perfect.
Right.
But what I found out is a father is much more, man, than just being a sperm donor. You don't mind me saying that.
Right. No.
And I've just known some good ones, and I've known some bad ones. And when you have children, man, that's leadership. You're in it. And I believe one thing my father had, as far as I was concerned, and I get this from John Maxwell and another great leadership mentor was J. Oswald Sanders with his great work, Spiritual Leadership. He said something that was so important. You know what he said?
What's that? Leadership
can be defined in one word. And John Maxwell said it too. You know what that one word is?
Well, no idea.
Man, I feel pedantic. That one word is influence. Influence. Okay. You cannot. I mean, it's difficult to influence someone. If you just don't have that, what you need. Right. And I mean, and being a father, when you're doing the right things and you're modeling it, the influence is there. The father is so crucial. Right. In the home, and that's what we see right now in our society. Talk about cultural breakdown. Yes. It's a father breakdown.
Yes.
And once that happens, those kids are left with a void, and that void is going to be filled with something.
Right.
And a lot of times it's negative influence, is negativity, is bad, is bad company, and that void then sucks that child up to what I call the gravitational pull of destruction. We got to stop that.
We do. That void is so detrimental, and a lot of times people don't. Let's say people like the mass culture, they don't look at that. Why our community is making so many poor decisions, and what you can say, you can get wrapped into this thing where you're just making destructive, bad decisions.
Yep.
And really, it really is almost a lack of a father. I mean, it's a lack of a lot of things, but
it is. That's really what it boils down to, in that leadership within the household.
I was listening to Denzel Washington. He was speaking on this, and he was talking. He got a cab ride in Chicago, and he was talking about this kid, Lil Yummy, and what had happened to this kid. And the irony of it, he says, he didn't make the mistakes that a lot of his other friends made because his father was there for him, even though his mother and father were divorced. Right. He said, my dad was there. Right. And he says, what if my dad wasn't there? Then my question is, where's the granddad?
Right.
Where's your grandfather?
Got to be some father somewhere.
Where's your grandfather? You
Right.
know? And man, it's missing. When I grew up, we had extended families, man. I mean, my grandmother lives with us, man. And everybody, boy, they will wear you out. And today, I think what has happened is that we have gotten away from really understanding the power of discipline. I didn't say punishment.
Right.
I say really disciplining our kids in a way that will give them what they need to succeed.
Right.
Man, we're afraid of our kids.
Yes.
Right.
And they're afraid of nobody.
Nobody.
That's a tragedy.
That is sad.
I'll never have that. No, in my ourselves, I'll never have a situation. Never. Listen to me now. Listen. Said I'll never have a situation in my home where my kids are going to talk back to me. I mean, you can't create a board game today to make me talk back to my mama.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Now, I say my father.
Right.
When we talk about my mama, I say my mama. You don't understand? That's my mama. You understand?
Right.
Not my mother. That's my mama.
Right.
All right, so I got a random question since you talk about it, people being scared. So, what are your thoughts on whipping your kids? I'm from the South too, so I got whooped because I needed it, and it got me straight.
Well, you know what, man? I've never been to jail. Okay? not because nothing against anybody who has. We all make mistakes.
Right.
But one thing I do, when I was growing up, man, I mean, if it's today, talking about whipping kids, if it's today, my mother would be on death row. Okay?
They don't play that now. They don't play
I
it.
grew up in the South, man,
Right.
and in the South, what happens is that they would always tell you out of protecting you. Okay? I'm going to deal with you so that they don't have to deal with you.
Right. That was the key then.
Uh-huh. And there was no disrespect. When I see a kid today, man, just cussing in front of their parents, there's something wrong with parenting.
Right.
And something has to change.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
We got a destructive culture. We have a rich culture, but inside of it has developed a cancer, like a destructive force that's tearing away
Right.
the good part of and that's so unfortunate. We
Right.
got to put a stop to it.
So
You
how
know
do
what?
you think? Oh, go ahead. Go
No,
finish.
and where it starts with us.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Right.
And I wanted to go back on the fathers not being in the household.
Oh, let's go back on that.
So for me, I was growing up, and my parents got divorced at an early age. So my dad wasn't in the house, but he was always around. So he always had that influence on me. So shout out Pops, love you for that, man. Because there's so many kids out there whose fathers are gone from the household, and they feel like all the responsibility, they don't have to hold their responsibility anymore just because they're not in the household. So to reiterate on that, you guys who are not in the household, you're divorced from your baby mama, whatever you want to call her, your kid still needs you. It's not the kid's fault that you're in a situation where you got to separate. It's not the kid's issue. You need to go back and raise that child.
That's right.
Like, we need you in the household to stop all these negative things that Mr. Sam was talking about that is happening within our community, because like we said in the beginning, it really boils down to the father being there.
Right.
He doesn't have to be in the household, but you need to be an influence on that child.
Right.
It's all like Shaquille O'Neal.
Right. Yeah.
Shaq only talk about the dad that raised him,
Right,
the
true.
one that invested in him,
Yes.
the one that put everything in him. You
Right,
know,
right.
Don't you say anything about that man,
Right.
because that man brought into his life what he needed to become the person that he is today. And to Shaq's credit, he gives him credit And man, you just got to understand, something happened. What happened? Well, what happened, I think, is that it became too easy to, to have children. Listen to what I'm about to say. I don't want to lose anybody. It became too easy to have children with no fathers around and get paid money to have more. Man. And when that happens, that I'm getting paid because I need the money. I'm getting more money to have the kid and stay home than to go to work. But the man is nowhere around because he can't come around.
Right.
Yes. He can't live here.
Yes.
And that became such a destructive factor in our culture, in our race, until the consequences can be seen today. I mean, if you got a mother trying to raise boys, man, my hat off to her. Because my mother did that, and she didn't do a bad job, I don't think.
I don't know. It's a debate. It's a debate.
But boy, I tell you, but that boy, okay, at some point, he has to have somebody to take him to the side and say, look, I'm gonna talk straight talk to you, okay? I'll be here for you.
Right.
But one thing you got to understand, man, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and I got the courage and the conviction to stand up and say, you're acting like a fool.
Right. And it's even like a call to action for people who aren't fathers, because I have friends who are teachers and all that. And so when they go to school, that's probably their only opportunity to see a man and how they function.
That's
One of my good friends told me, you know, a lot of young black men, boys, you know, they really throw a tantrum or they act like they don't want this discipline, but deep down they want that discipline because they didn't have it. You know, they respond to it. So it's like a call to action to any man that we got to put our arms around our community and make sure that we can be that father figure, that we can really instruct them in the right way so that we can lift up our community. This is what this is all about. You know, the name of the podcast is Pull Up Podcast. We want to pull up our community. And so, you know, having someone like you here where we can have these type of conversations is so important. And the hope is that people hear this, it's going to drop on Father's Day, and that they can understand how important it is to be a father, but how important it is to be a man in our community.
Man, that is so good what you just said. I mean, that was so good. And let me tell you something else. When you're talking about wrapping your arm around, finding those kids that are just loose out there, they're just looking for somebody to say, I love you.
Yes, that's
They're just looking. Simple. Those boys, man, they're just looking for somebody to tell them, Marcus, hey, you got what it takes.
Yes.
I mean, you have what it takes. But that's where we come in with both steel and velvet characteristics. You have to have both steel and velvet characteristics. You know, I got to know, man, when to pour your heart out. You know, you got to cry sometime with them. But at the same time, that velvet, that steel is right underneath there saying enough. Enough is enough.
So what advice would you give to like a young father who's just generally, he's a young father, black father, or it doesn't matter. It can be white father, just generally. What would be some advice that you'll give a young father right now?
And I tell you what, man, if you want to be a successful father, look at another successful father. Ask him what he did. Talk, take the time. And I think that's important. So if you're a young father out there and you might be struggling with issues or with things, man, inside, if you're married, inside you're married, if not, with your children, you might be struggling. Don't think you by yourself, man. You don't have a monopoly on confusion, okay? There's a lot of it out there, but take the time to find somebody that you can go to, that you can trust.
So let's pivot a little bit to Juneteenth. That's right. That's on the same weekend as Father's Day. So I asked everybody, so what does Juneteenth mean to you, and what does it represent to you?
Well, I know what Juneteenth means. Growing up, man, we didn't celebrate Juneteenth. We didn't know what it was. I wasn't introduced to Juneteenth really till I got to Denver, to be honest with you. But I know what it means, and when you find out, you've always, you've been free for a long time, but I've been living the way I was living because I didn't know I had that luxury, man, of just saying, man, you know what, I'm free. I'm free. It affects a lot of areas in our lives. I mean, that holiday right there, when you look at it, what it means is that a lot of people right now, they can actually free themselves from some of the stuff they're going through. They just don't know they have the power to do so.
Right, man.
That is, I mean, and that troubles me.
Yeah.
That's exactly mental. Yeah. Mental's that's more difficult sometimes than the physical.
Right.
I mean, ask Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I mean, I might be in prison.
Right.
But I'm free here, and I'm thinking free every day. I know I'm free, and it's just a matter of time, man, before the body, this physical thing is going to be free too, so I can go do what I want to do.
Right.
But when you are mentally, man, just enslaved by your thoughts, your actions, and just just not wanting to be educated, not wanting to be helped, just doing stupid things. All you got to look forward to is a life of misery, and that's unfortunate.
Right.
So what would you say the first step would be to get out of that mental bondage? Like, what would you tell somebody?
If you want to get out of that mental bondage, first thing you got to tell yourself is that I'm tired of being here. If you're not tired of being somewhere, you're going to stay there. And if you don't know you have options, then of course you're going to continue doing what you're doing. I like to read. I read so much.
Right.
I mean, if you come to my house, you got books. I like to read. Marcus gave me a good book, man, Atomic Habit.
Yep, that's a good
That was
one.
an excellent book. I don't know if you read it.
No, I haven't.
That's a good book I would ask you guys to read, Atomic Habits. But man, we just got to break some of those habits of just not doing what we need to do to go to the next level. And I do believe that's one of the things that can really help us right now is reading good books and making good, strong decisions. And like you said, taking action.
Right.
Take actions to get away from that mindset, the things that have just enslaved me. And a lot of times it's self-imposed.
Right.
Look, just to piggyback off of that, man, if we look at how far we've come with the little that we've had, the little resources that we've had, and now we're starting to get more resources. It's starting to have a little bit more leadership, a little bit more direction. Let's see how much farther we can really go with this.
Right.
With us at the lead and not someone else directing us in a certain area to
Right.
go. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
now it's on us to go further.
Yeah.
Now we can actually have the reins and control of where we want to go with this.
Man, you're so right, because look at this. We have the studio right now at your house
Right.
right now. We got the
Cool,
lights,
man.
we got the camera, we just put it on the internet.
Yep.
We got the freedom
Yes.
to be able to do what we need to do to try to take a little bit of leadership in our community. So,
Yep.
man, I salute you on that, and you spot on when it comes to that, man.
Yes, sir, man.
Yeah.
You said something else too. I mean, just supporting one another. I told my wife and I, we said, well, we're gonna always do business, what a black business try to every week. I mean, it's not enough. It's true.
That is very true.
Yeah.
I'm serious. So supporting and having the money circulate over, and man, we don't have any of that. And I think that we need to really, like you said, step up our game, take it to the next level.
We're about to close everything out though, but I want to ask you one final question. How can we really receive financial freedom? Like how can we change the younger generation's mindset to receive financial freedom?
Well, financial freedom, a lot of people don't have they don't have a money mentality. They just don't, okay? And that's unfortunate. We've been taught wrong about money. I read a book that by Jewish Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and it was called Thou Shalt Prosper. And the book would throw you, if you're a Christian, man, a lot. And he said, you know what? He says, most churches have taught their people wrong about money. Say money is simply a certificate of performance. The one who performs the most make the most. Okay? You have to stop stepping over pennies. You got to stop stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Right.
You have to develop an entrepreneur mentality, an entrepreneur mindset. You have to understand, man, there's so many things you can do. You have so much talent lying dormant. What has to happen is somebody has to discover it. And once it's discovered, just take it and find, man, what you can do. Get the help you need and move forward. Believe me, there are a lot of support bases out there that can help you. But do something positive. Invest. Always invest. Savers die broke. Investors retire wealthy.
Right. Man,
That's perfect.
couldn't said it any
Yes,
better
man.
myself.
Yes.
Mr. Sands, appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, my man.
Appreciate that.
As always.
Man.
Can hit my